Today we're talking about everything to do with designing an apartment pretty much from scratch. So I'm going to talk about all of my inspiration, the layout, the materials, the furniture, the color palette. So it's going to be a very chatty video. I'm going to treat it like I'm talking to a friend and I'm explaining my thought process and my design decisions to them. So if you're new to this channel or you just don't know, my partner and I, we lost our home and all of our belongings in the Eaton fire. So we are starting this apartment pretty much from scratch. Throughout this video, I'm pretty much going to be saying me and I just because it's easier for me to say me and I than our and include, Chris and everything that I say. Plus I am the one who does most of like the designing, the furniture sourcing, because that's just what I like. And Chris mostly likes everything I do, but I always run things by him. And if he doesn't like it, then I don't add it in. So just so you know, I do live with my partner and a dog and a cat. Also, I would just like to preface this with, I am not an interior designer. I've never claimed to be one. I'm a student of the internet, of YouTube, of Pinterest, of Instagram, of magazines, probably very similar to you. So this is just what I'm doing to my apartment. I am just a guy on the internet decorating my apartment. I have my computer here because I'm gonna be referring to it and screen sharing with you because I made an entire Milanote board, and Milanote is the sponsor of this video, but I'll talk about them a bit later. And yeah, so this is the homepage. As you can see, I created a floor plan. It's not to scale. I didn't do any measurements. I was kind of lazy to do measurements of all the furniture and the apartment, but I created this floor plan layout using this website called Floor Plan Creator, and it's free. Very easy to use. And yeah, it's really fun too. I was having a lot of fun like messing around with the different layouts. To give you an introduction to the apartment, it is an 800 square foot junior 1-bedroom. So it's kind of like a studio, but the bedroom is slightly separated from the rest of the living area. But honestly, it feels more like a studio. It's a new build apartment, so everything's updated, which is nice, but that also comes along with a white box apartment that doesn't have much character at all. So the cabinets are white, walls are white, everything is pretty much like non-offensive. Luckily, the floors are not gray. It's more of a natural, darker brown color, which, I can work with. To give you an idea of the flow of the apartment, first you enter through the entryway that I didn't include here, and then you go through the kitchen, and then there's a dining area and the office area, and the living room, and then here is the bedroom, and then the bathroom is over here, and then here's a closet, and then the bathroom connects to the entryway, so it's kind of a nice loop that you can do. So the first apartment that Chris and I moved into in Los Angeles was actually very similar to this apartment, except it had gray vinyl floors, which I think is a lot worse than the floors that we have right now. We honestly did a pretty good job at creating an interesting and unique space, and I learned a lot about how to decorate in a new build. I saw this place and I saw a lot of potential in it because of the lighting. Like I knew that we can make this into something a bit special. I'm assuming that a couple of you watching this live in an apartment that's somewhat similar to this, just a white box. These kinds of apartments are nice because it is such a blank canvas. Like you can really almost do anything to it to make it your own. Just think of it like a blank slate. It takes a little bit more to add character to it. If you have a home from like the 1920s, it already probably has a lot of interesting elements to it. So you don't need to add as much character, but in a white box apartment, you have to do a lot of the heavy lifting to make your space look more interesting. But then it's also nice because you can really dictate how you want your room to look. So now that you have an introduction to the apartment, let's move forward to inspiration and design elements. So let's go to my Inspo tab. Here's everything that I have on here just to give you an overview. Have some different inspiration photos, and we have my color palette down here. So my main aesthetic inspirations are Scandinavian, mid-century modern, Japanese, and British. So I don't like to just pull from one aesthetic. I like to mix things. I think that's how you create a unique interior space. So let's go through them. This area is a mix of Scandinavian and British. I know this home is Scandinavian. This pendant is very Danish. And these homes to me look British. I know some of them are British, but some of them, I'm not sure. They just have that British look to them. So British and Scandinavian, I feel like these are very broad terms. Like not every British home is gonna look the same, not every Scandinavian home is gonna look the same. But there are certain elements to it that I think act as a through line throughout a lot of the homes, at least the ones that I see on Pinterest. There's an eclecticness to them, but it doesn't look messy and cluttered. Like it just looks like someone lives there, and that it's very, very cozy. I'm gonna say cozy so much in this video, so yeah, just pretend like I have a broader vocabulary, okay? I also really love the mix of the wood tones. I think it has a very casual and collected feel to it rather than having only one type of wood. So now let's move on to the Japanese aesthetic that I like. So this image here, this is from the Truck Furniture showroom in Osaka, and Truck Furniture is a Japanese furniture brand that I love. I think they're so interesting because they take like American aesthetic, but they put it through a Japanese lens. So it's like Americana style through a Japanese sensibility, which create something completely new and unique, but also feels familiar to me. And this sofa is so comfortable. We finally have the Truck Furniture sofa now. I'll talk about it more in a home updates, but we got one of the showroom pieces for it. So we were able to get it a lot sooner than I thought, and we got it for a greatly reduced price. So thank you so much to Truck Furniture and Steven for helping us out with that. So I really love Truck Furniture style. It leans more rustic than I would typically like, but like I said, you don't need to just pull from one aesthetic and one style. Just take little bits and pieces of it that you like. Like just because I wouldn't, want my home to look like this, doesn't mean that I can't appreciate it and I can't get inspiration from it and learn from it. So the next style is what I would kind of call like mid-century modern, but sort of California mid-century modern. So on the left is our old house, and it's so pretty. I didn't realize how pretty it was, I feel like, until looking at pictures of it now that it's gone. This home, for example, looks like it's in California, beautiful. It's a bit too fancy for me. Like I wouldn't want to live in a space like this, but I love what they're doing with the colors especially, and the woods and everything. So now on to the color palette. This is more or less the same color palette that we had at the old house. As you can see, it's very similar. So I like a lot of earth tones, green, brown, red, these neutrals like cream, black, white. But I feel like those kinds of spaces that have a lot of these warm neutrals and earth tones, they really would benefit from a little bit of a cool tone, so something like a blue. For example, in this home, this mid-century home, I love how the chair looks here. So if you were to cover up the chair, I mean, it still looks really good, but I think this blue just does something to make it special. So these inspiration photos I have, it's not that I want to recreate exactly what these rooms look like. I just like the vibe of the rooms and also what they do with the materials and with the colors, and I want to be able to incorporate that into our apartment. So yeah, that is it for my aesthetic inspirations. And before we move on to each individual room, I would like to talk about Milanote, who is the sponsor of this video. I've been using Milanote for about 3 years now. I've never done such a big, extensive project like this. I mean, this isn't that big, but I haven't gone into this much detail before, but I felt like for this apartment, it would be good to go into a lot of detail. So Milanote is like a great tool for organizing any creative project you have. For me, I use it to help with my projects, especially to figure out what kinds of patterns and what colors go together, because I am a very visual person, and that's difficult when you're doing interior stuff, because if you're very visual, then you need the actual piece in front of you and to compare it with other stuff in your room. But with Milanote, so for example, I have all of these pillows and I just overlay them over the couch, and I have this throw blanket to see how they work together. And I think these work together pretty well. So for example, I could be like, I don't think that this red pillow works. Let me move this out of the way. This really gives me a better idea of what will and won't work in my space. So by far, the best thing about Milanote is how you're able to drag and drop images from Pinterest or other online websites. So I have this picture here, and I want to add it here. And look at how easy that is. And you can just reformat it. That's pretty nice. Or if you want to add something from Etsy, you can just copy this link up top, paste it, and it'll add the photo and it'll add the link. So I just delete this description. Oops. And then I just drag this in. And now it's right here. And you can click this link and it will bring you to the listing so you don't lose your stuff. So that's how I use Milanote, but there are so many other ways you can use it. Like you can collaborate with people, you can share it with clients. I'm just doing it for myself. Well, I guess I am sharing it with you guys. Milanote is available for free with no time limit, and you can sign up for free using the link in my description to start your next creative project. Okay, now let's talk about the living room. This is probably the room I'm most excited about, just because I spend most of my time in the living room. This is the living room when we first moved in. There isn't much to it. We have these really nice big windows on the left, and on the right is a room divider that's also a media console that divides the bedroom and the living room. So those are, I suppose those are really the only fixed elements. Also, by the time that I finish editing and posting this, the apartment might look different. Like we might have more furniture pieces or the layout may change. So just know that I might be talking about furniture pieces we don't have yet, but then you'll see them in the video. Does that make sense? First, I think it's really important to understand what your goals are for this space. So there's two things I always ask myself before I start planning is one, what is it for? And two, what is the vibe that you want to achieve? So what is the living room for me and for Chris and for our animals? So we want it as a space where we can lounge, where we can like take naps and stuff, to read, to watch TV, and to play with our dog and our cat. And what is the vibe we want to achieve? Soft, cozy, inviting, lived in. We want to create zones because this is just an open floor plan, right? So I included the dining area and the office area because all of this is connected. It's important in this kind of boxy space to try and create zones as much as you can to break up the openness and the boxiness. And also for colors, I want to use colors, but I don't want them to be that crazy, so that's why I have these warm earth tones and a little bit of blue. At one point, I tried to push myself to add in more colors, sort of more vibrant stuff, but it's not me, and I've just had to accept that I'm a bit boring with color, and that's okay. But because the colors are more simple, I want to add in more interest with patterns and textures. And that's an area I feel like I'm not super strong in, so I am trying to improve in that. And then mix vintage and new, so just mix the different eras to keep it fresh and interesting and not feel like you're either in a 50s time capsule or you're in a Crate and Barrel catalog. And then add in warm wood. So that's not really a goal for just the living room, it's more for the entire apartment. Okay, so now let's talk about the layout. And this is probably why I am the most excited about the living room, because I think the layout is interesting. So because we want to create these zones, I'm thinking of having the couch going this way across the desk to break off this area from the dining and office area. So it feels like these are two separate zones. And there's a couple of different ways that you can create zones within an open room. So one of them is like a physical division. So we have the couch as our physical divider. You could also actually use a room divider, but I feel that I rarely see those implemented well. Sometimes it just looks like a random divider and it looks a bit odd and it blocks your line of sight. And I think it only works if you're in a really large space, like a loft space. I don't think a room divider would look too great here. Another way you can create a zone in a space is through lighting. The pendant light, for example, you can put it above your dining table and it creates a nice zone. Oh, you can actually see it. See, there's the pendant light and it helps separate that dining table space from the rest of the apartment. And then the other way that I can think of is through a rug. So a rug sort of creates this island for that area and the furniture that you have on it. Oh, and then another way is that you can make room dividers with curtains, which is what we did to separate the bedroom and the living room. And I'll talk about that a little bit later once we go through the rest of the living room. I want to show just a bit of inspiration for the layout. So a long time ago, I found this account on Instagram, and I don't really love this layout on the left as much as the one on the right, but this gives you an idea of what the entire space looks like. But I love how they have this couch, which is the truck furniture couch, up against this console. And it creates this nook right here, this really cozy reading nook. I don't know why they got rid of this layout. I think this layout is much nicer. This is very functional. Imagine the sofa here, and then you're watching TV, and then you can have a little reading nook right here. So functional, practical, and I also think it looks good. So that is my inspiration for the layout. So I just wanted to chat a little bit about color and the color palette. So I have this book that I've had a long time ago, but I repurchased it since we lost it in the fire. And I was using this to figure out my color palette. So I really liked this one. I really liked this color palette. So that's sort of the color palette of the apartment, but I also have this pillow that I'm using as my color guide. So this pillow, I love the colors of the red, the green, the orange, the yellow. These are all perfect shades of these colors that I love. So I've been taking this pillow cover with me pretty much everywhere. Like I just went to a rug shop and I brought this pillow cover with me because this, I feel like, is what ties all of the colors in the apartment together. At least that's what I want it to do. So if it matches this pillow, then it matches with the rest of the furniture. So this is like my grounding piece. So that's a little tip. If you find something that you love that has multiple colors in it, use that as your color palette and as your base. And if it's a pillow cover like this, you can just bring it around with you when you go furniture shopping. Also, I really like when blue is added into this natural warm color palette. It just freshens it up. And I find that without the blue, it looks nice, but sometimes with these warm natural colors, it can begin to look a bit muddy and a bit like dusty looking, in my opinion. So I think a blue like this, you don't need to do too much, just a little bit. I think it helps out a lot. So now let's move on to the fun part, which is the furniture. So some of these pieces I have now, most of them I do not. So what I have is this couch, and I have these pillows. I have two of these pillows, and I have the curtains and the console here, this black console. And everything else are just things I think would look nice. We don't have them yet, but it just gives me an idea of the look that I want. So let's start from the top and work our way down. So I'm thinking of getting two sconces like these that are on top of the console. And I'm thinking of having them be uplights because having different directions of light is kind of nice. I already have a lot of down lighting with the pendant and then this table lamp over here. So I think it would be nice to have some different directions with the light. And then this console is really cool. I was thinking before, so this was like my first iteration before we even moved in. I was thinking of getting these open shelves that I found on Facebook Marketplace, but we already have so much open shelving in the apartment that I didn't want to add more open shelving because especially in a small space, it can start feeling very cluttered and busy. So I didn't want that. And then I was also thinking of getting two lounge chairs that sat directly across from the sofa, but it's just too bulky, I think, and it would also end up blocking most of the console, so it just wouldn't work. Yeah, that was my original idea. I'm happy that we did not go with that because I really love the black console because it has sliding doors, so we have more closed storage options, which we need in the smaller apartment. And I like the black. I think having black in a space is really important because you have all of those different values. So you want whites, you want blacks, and you want everything in between. So for example, I think those really light white cream homes, an issue that they face is that they're only occupying like one area of the value spectrum. Like they're completely ignoring all the darker stuff that's over here. So I think those homes would benefit a bit from black and darker colors because when you have everything as a lighter value, it just starts to look washed out. It's like if you took a photo and you just increase the shadows, like there's no depth and it looks very flat. And vice versa, you know, if you only have whites and blacks, then everything is like too punchy and contrasty and it feels intense. I mean, it depends on what look you're going for, of course, but I think that it's good to have the full spectrum. It gives you more depth, more layering, and it also just looks more natural, and I think it's also easier on the eyes. So this next one I want to talk about is the Pernilla chair by Bruno Matheson. Bruno Matheson is a Swedish furniture designer, and I've always loved this chair. But I saw Noah Daniels on YouTube. He's an amazing interior design YouTuber, and he has professional experience, which is, you know, that's really cool. He has a design background. So go watch his channel, but he got this chair for his living room. It just looks so comfortable. I am looking for an older sort of beat up Pernilla chair and then have it reupholstered. And I'm thinking of doing it in this sort of olive green color. The chair just looks so comfortable. I love the curves of it. The shape is beautiful. And yeah, so I'm thinking of having that right here. You can see that little chair there. And then I think I want to have a floor lamp next to it. I'm not sure how the spacing will work with it being close to the window. So maybe not have a floor lamp, but I really like this floor lamp. It's the Gooby Grasshopper lamp. Very expensive, but I have seen a few on Facebook Marketplace that are a good price. So I'm keeping my eye out, but I'm not super set on this floor lamp yet. I just like the color and the shape of it. And I saw it in a movie once and I thought it looked so beautiful. Okay, next. So this is the truck furniture sofa, which we have, and then we have these two pillows. And I want to add a throw blanket and maybe another pillow on it, but I think the pillow will be used on the lounge chair that we have. You can see how I'm trying to mix patterns, do something a little bit more fun. A tip I learned about mixing patterns is that as long as there is a through line with the patterns that you're mixing, then they can work. So for example, the red on this pillow matches the red here, and then the green of this blanket matches the green of the pillow too. So once again, that diamond pillow is like my through line for the design of the apartment. So for art in the room, I want art to be in between the two sconces that we have above the console. And I don't want it to be too busy because I'm thinking of putting open shelving above the office desk. So I don't want to have too much going on the walls. So I think it would benefit from an art piece that has a strong graphic quality to it. So I really love these tapestries made by this artist. Honestly hesitant to share this because I've been trying to get one of her pieces for so long, but I always miss the drop. And by sharing this, I feel like it's gonna make it even harder. But her pieces are so beautiful. I wanted to share them. Okay, I took a little water break and bathroom break, and I realized that I have really red cheeks, and it's not because I put on way too much blush or anything. I just got sunburned, so yeah. I feel my face is kind of hot. Let's talk about the curtains. So we already have these curtains, and at first I wanted to do a more interesting color, but the thing about curtains is that they can completely transform the shade of a room because when the light filters through them, it'll create a cast over the room of whatever color the curtains are. So for example, if you have blue curtains, everything is gonna look blue. If you have green curtains, everything is gonna look green. And that is an issue for me when I'm trying to film because then everything will have a green or a color cast to it, which I do not want. It'll make things a lot more difficult. So we just went with cream linen curtains, and these are actually the same curtains that we had at our old house, and the people who made them, they're a local curtain company. They installed them too, and they gave us a really nice discount because we're returning customers and we lost our other curtains in the fire. I'm editing the video right now and I realized I did not talk about the coffee table at all. So I'm thinking of doing something with rounded corners, whether it's maybe a circular table or an oval table or just a rectangular table that has rounded corners because everything in the apartment right now is pretty sharp in terms of the corners and also very rectangular. And I'm also not sure what material I want the coffee table to be because we are gonna have a lot of wood already. So I'm trying to figure out what I want to do there. But yeah, those are my thoughts for the coffee table. And then for the rug, I really love the look of Turkish rugs, of like Persian rugs. I think those are so beautiful, especially those red ones with all the intricate pattern and detail to it. But I am still a little bit hesitant to add that strong and bold of a color and pattern to the apartment because I just don't know if I'll love it. And a rug is such a big piece of the room. But then I went to a local rug store just to see what kind of rugs they had because they have a lot of these Turkish rugs. And I found this one that is kind of like a perfect match for the pillow and for the color palette. And it has this interesting detail, but it's not so crazy in the sense that there's a lot of white space in the middle and the colors are more muted. So I think that would just be perfect for the living room. I already saw it and I told him I would think about it, even though I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get it. I'm playing a little bit hard to get, okay? I'm gonna go back and try and negotiate the price with him because he seems very willing to negotiate. So yeah, I'm gonna see, but I really love this rug and Chris does too. Okay, so I think that's it for the living room. Let's move on now to, where should we go? Let's do the dining and office room. So this is how it looked before we added anything, but my immediate thought was to have a desk on that wall in between the two windows and then have the dining table on the left side. Let's start with the goals that we have for the space. So we need to have enough dining seating for guests because my family comes over a lot and we have friends over a lot. So we need enough room to seat about 6 people. So we got a an extendable table right here that will allow us to extend it when we have people over and it can sit up to 6 people. So that's really nice. And then we need to have a desk area for Chris and me. I'm sitting on the desk right now, but we need it to edit our videos, to record stuff like talking head videos and also to play video games together. And then we also just need the entire space to be very functional. So the desk is functional and the table is also functional. You can see again, a lot of like zoning going on. And what I like about this design is that it is very unique to what Chris and I need. I think that defining and designing around your specific needs is what creates a space that is truly unique to you. I mean, that's how we came up with all of the layout and then the furniture pieces is because we have these specific needs. And I think it creates something pretty cool. Okay, so now let's go over the color palette really quickly. It is pretty much the same as the living room because these areas of the home are connected. So not much to talk about there. Okay, so now let's move on to furniture. So these two images are slightly dated pictures of the apartment. It looks a little bit different now. So yeah, we have the desk, we have the table, we have the chairs. I really love that we added in these chairs. These are Herman Miller aluminum group chairs, but we got them on Facebook Marketplace, so they're much cheaper than their retail price. If you live in Los Angeles, never buy the Herman Miller chairs at retail price. There's like no reason to because they're always available on Facebook Marketplace for like $200, $300. It is such a fraction of the price of the retail, which is like thousands of dollars, okay? So try Facebook Marketplace before you buy retail because a lot of offices, they think they have liquidation sales, so they sell a lot of their Herman Miller furniture. I feel like this apartment really needed this kind of modern touch to it with the glossy chrome finish and also the gray mesh of the chair. At first I wanted to do like a cotton material just to match the rest of the apartment, but this was one of the only chairs that I could find that still looked nice. And I'm actually really happy that that was the case because the gray complements all of the more natural tones really well. I also like that it's more of a synthetic mesh fiber just to give a contrast in the materials. And then I really wanted to get an architect lamp. I've seen so many spaces that have like clamped architect lamps at a desk and I think it looks so beautiful. Like this image, for example, down here, we actually ended up getting one and I really like it. I like the red. I love a pop of red. And then I wanted to add shelves above this desk. I think it would give a really strong impact when you first walk into the apartment because essentially when you walk in, this is what your view is. It's a little bit farther back because you go through the entrance and then you're looking through the kitchen into this area. And I think having shelves here would just look so nice. You know, some books and stuff, kind of like this image. So this is a lot of my inspiration for this space. And at first I was gonna do wood for the shelves, but I think I want to just do white because we're already gonna have a lot of wood throughout this apartment. And I think it's good not to have wood everything. And then this is some of my inspiration for the dining table area. I didn't want it exactly like this because they look like they live in a cottage. It's not a new build apartment in Los Angeles, so it just wouldn't really fit. But this is some of my inspiration. And you can see the table and chairs are pretty similar in their look. So I just want to talk a little bit about materials. So I thought that this was the perfect area to add in like glossier finishes, something to freshen up all of the natural materials. So the chair has the glossy chrome on it. This light is made of metal, so it has a bit of a reflection. I feel like so many things nowadays, they're matte finishes, and I like matte finishes, but when you don't have anything that's a little bit reflective, like glass or metal or glazed ceramics, it starts to feel very flat. So yeah, I think it looks good when you have some materials that reflect and bounce light off and don't just like absorb it like matte objects do. Okay, and now we are going to move on to the bedroom. So the bedroom is pretty simple. The only fixed element in here is the other side of the room divider. It has shelves and it has some cabinets underneath it. Okay, so for my goals for the bedroom, they're pretty broad. I want it to be cozy. Of course, it's a bedroom, you want it to be cozy. And then I want it to be clean and simple because I don't think bedrooms need to do too much. Like they don't need to be all that interesting because, I mean, like be interesting, but they don't need to be too over decorated because it's a bedroom, you know? You don't need to do too much with it. You want it to be calming so you can sleep. And then also use deeper colors. Let's go into the layout. I think the bedroom is the perfect area to add symmetry. It's usually a smaller space and typically they're designed so you can have like 2 nightstands and a bed somewhere. In our old house, the bedroom was not symmetrical at all. And I kind of craved that symmetry for a bedroom space, but we weren't able to do it because of the layout constraints. So in this apartment, I want to implement some symmetry. And so yeah, you know, bed in the middle, 2 nightstands, sconces so we can read on the walls, and then a dresser here, and then a rug underneath, and art here perhaps, and maybe a pendant above, but I am not sure. I want to get all the basics first before we go into the extra decorative stuff. Okay, so now let's talk about the color palette. So it is similar to the living room and the dining room, but it is a little bit different, okay? In my original plan for this room, it was just gonna be the same color palette as the rest of the room. I know, kind of boring, but I like to play it safe. But for Valentine's Day, I got a bouquet for Chris, and I asked for the main colors to be a deep red and purple because those are his favorite colors, and the bouquet looked really beautiful in the house. So I realized that this is a nice color that works well with the colors that we already have. So then I wanted to integrate it into the bedroom. And I also think this is a nice color for the bedroom. It looks dark and cozy and relaxing and very like, I don't know, it's very mellow. It's a nice plum color. And so that is a little tip if you're trying to add color and you don't know where to start. Maybe you can start adding in temporary bits of colors. I think that's a good idea or a good way to get a sense of color in your space and with your color palette that you have. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the furniture. We already have the bedding. Most of this room is already set up. We just don't have nightstands, rugs, lighting, or art. Well, I guess maybe it's not mostly set up, but the bed is set up. We have a dresser and we have 2 chairs that are acting as our nightstands right now. This is an area where I wanted to add in more pattern mixing. So with the bedding, I thought it was a good opportunity. So I got striped sheets, just like striped linen sheets from Brooklinen. And then we have pillowcases from Paige, from her brand Was. And then we got this beautiful throw from Toast. This, what is it? A velvet throw from Toast. They just go together so well. This is the first time I think I put together a bed where I'm like, oh, I really like this. Before, bedding is something I struggle with, and I think it's mostly because, you know, I struggle with color and with pattern mixing, and I think the bed is the ultimate test of your color and pattern mixing skills. And then we got this dresser from Drew, who's Lone Fox on YouTube. It fits perfectly. It's not even in the way at all. I know some people were saying like, oh, it looks like you might block your path, but there's definitely enough room to walk by, and it's really good for like our underwear and socks and little things like towels that we need to store away, because we don't have that much clothes storage, especially in the closet. And then I don't really know what I want to do for nightstands yet. These are just nightstands I found online that I think would look good with the color palette and also have a more modern sensibility to them. But yeah, we're not going to end up getting these for sure because they're too expensive. Okay, this is an art piece. I went to my first ever art fair because my friend was showing in an art fair, and I saw this shell and I thought it was just the most beautiful thing ever. It's an oil painting, but the detail and it's the luminosity of it in person was insane. And I really wanted it, but I asked how much it was and it was like $5,000. So that was a no, and it was like this big. But I mean, how beautiful would that be? Like to have in the room. And then 2 sconces. I don't know exactly what sconces we want yet. I know we want ones that are movable like this, so that way we can use it to read. And then I was thinking of doing a pendant similar to this image, but I don't think the bedroom needs it. So that would be like the last thing that I do. The bedroom doesn't need too much to it, so it's already coming along really well. And yeah, okay, that's it for the bedroom. Now let's move on to the kitchen. So the kitchen is pretty simple. It has 2 counters on either side and it has nice new appliances. But the thing that I don't like about it is the cabinets. So the cabinets, they have a faux wood distressed vinyl over them. And I don't know why they decided to do this, but it's just not nice. And when you look closely, you can see all of the pixels on it. And I'm also not a huge fan of the hardware. It's not really brass, it's more like a champagne gold color, and it just looks not great with the faux distressed white wood. Okay, so the goals that we have for the kitchen, we want it to be very utilitarian. It's a kitchen, it needs to be functional. I want it also to have a little bit of a lived-in look to it and also add some warmth. So I found this image on Pinterest and I saw that it has pretty much the same layout as our kitchen. So I'm taking little elements of this for our own kitchen. I wouldn't do exactly the same because it's a bit crazy looking to me, very cozy, but I couldn't live with it personally. So I want to do open shelving above the top of the sink and then also add a vinyl wood wrap over the cabinets. So I'm talking with Drew, who you may know as the Lone Fox on YouTube. We actually know each other because we went to a creator summer camp thing with Mrs. Myers last year in Wisconsin. So it was a random chance that we met up, but we kind of became friends really quickly. And he's thinking of doing a renter-friendly makeover thing. So I was like, you know, maybe you could help me do a vinyl wood wrap over these cabinets, because DIY isn't my specialty, but he's really good at those kinds of things. And typically I am not pro faux materials like vinyl wrap, but because the cabinets already have a vinyl wrap on them, I feel like it's fine to add a faux wood wrap because it's not like we're covering up a real material, we're covering up another vinyl. So I think that a nice wood vinyl would add in so much warmth and make the space look really, really nice. And then also add in or replace the hardware too. I don't know what we would replace it with, but just hardware that isn't this kind of finish. Editing Benji here again, and I had this entire section about plants and house plants and how I wanted to incorporate them in the house, but that was like I recorded about an hour of footage of that, and I realized that I want to make my own separate video all about houseplants and how I'm planning to rebuild my collection. So I decided to just cut that out because the video is already long enough as it is. Coming up soon, I'll talk about what I'm planning to do with houseplants, but I definitely want to add them in to give some color and also to soften some of the edges and some of the corners of the house, because plants have a more organic shape, and that will help with all of the boxiness of the furniture and also just the boxiness of the apartment itself. Okay, so I'm gonna leave you there. My throat hurts. I feel like I've been talking forever, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, a very long one, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.